Hello Blues fans and welcome back to BlueTube on YouTube, where this episode we will be doing a deep dive into our CEO, Garry Cook. Born in Birmingham in March 1962, he is a self-confessed blues fan, like we all should be, to be totally honest with you. Admits to coming down the blues from a young age with his dad back in the day. He attended Matthew Bolton College in Birmingham before it was knocked down, studying business finance before later, with his family, moving over to America, where he worked for Nike, which is, as we know, a multi-billion pound industry, and he was quite influential in what he did with Nike, working initially as the general manager on the Jordan project with Michael Jordan, the famous basketball player. He spent 12 years with Nike in America before moving on, and he was very well respected. In fact, Charlie Denson, who was the then president of global Nike, gave him very high praise indeed, saying that he was very well respected and influential in taking Nike from a $6 billion industry into an $18 billion industry. I found some footage regarding Garry Cook online, where he was being interviewed about how he got into the business world. And it all started while he was in America. He was actually playing soccer, as they call it over there. And he was approached by someone that was giving out footballing merchandise, and it was a promotion. And he said on this interview that he actually, this gave him the idea to use his business acumen. This was before the Nike days. And actually joined the financial side with the sporting side, and he actually worked for Mitre, that's well known in the footballing world over here, and that's where it all started for him before he moved over to Nike. So yeah, Garry Cook is clearly quite a hard-working man, and I think we are quite lucky to have someone of his esteem at Birmingham. So since leaving Mitre and Nike over in America, he returned home, and he's had a lot of involvement in some big corporate sporting enterprises globally. One being, as we all know as blues fans, he was heavily involved in the Man City setup going back to the mid-2000s, where he was involved in literally making Man City the global name that they are today. So in fact, as the CEO of Man City, he was heavily involved in the actual player and manager recruitment. Some of the players involved that he was involved in bringing in were players such as Vincent Kompany, Tal Ben Haim, Sean Wright-Phillips and Pablo Zabaleta. And at the time, it was said that he was fronting an effort to try and bring in a massive global name at the time, Kaka from AC Milan. And he'd actually arranged to have talks with Kaka at the time. He discussed this with Milan, and apparently this was set up. But something went wrong with this, and Garry Cook wasn't afraid to go on Sky TV at the time and actually speak his mind, really, because Kaka had said that no arrangements had been made, and said that if it had been made, that Milan would have told him what was going on. Whereas Garry Cook came out and said, no, it was arranged. We'd actually had a confidential agreement to be allowed to speak to him, but somebody at some point backed out. And you've got to give kudos to Garry Cook there for actually speaking his mind, because things like this happen all the time. So it gives you the impression he's not really a man to be messed with in the sporting world. He's also been involved heavily in community projects, which we've seen the likes of at Man City. We see happening at Birmingham as well. He's heavily involved in bringing the local community in, the local councils, and fundraising and staging events for the local community to be involved in with the football club, which, looking forward, that's going to be a good thing for the club, making Birmingham a big name really, and bringing us on and involving the players, the fans and the local community, which is something to look forward to. I did want to mention as well, it's not just the footballing world that Garry Cook's been involved in. He was the UFC vice president between 2012 and 2016, and he worked his way up to global officer before he left. And the reason why he left, it wasn't because he was pushed or anything like that, it was because there was just new ownership that was brought in that went a different way. But again, he received some really high praise for the current UFC CEO, and that's Dana White. And he described Cook as a rock star. understood, so make of that what you will. But good praise though, isn't it, to be fair. In 2017 to 2018, he had a brief spell at Wigan Athletic. Now this was a bit of an unusual time, and there's not a lot of information out there that I could find about this. But Wigan Athletic, quite a big cheese at one time in the Prem. And they were owned by the Whelan family. Eventually the club got handed down to Whelan's grandson, that unfortunately it wasn't quite a successful time for the grandson. So on a group of a group of board members, Garry Cook headed a consortium to try and improve things there, but it didn't quite go according to plan. Eventually it was sold off to a consortium from Hong Kong, and that was the start of Wigan's woes, really. Garry Cook wasn't really involved in trying to bring them forward anymore, and only spent quite a short time there, really. So it was possibly one of the smaller splodges on the background of Garry Cook, but I don't think it was something that was greatly in his control at the time. Other ventures outside of football that Garry's been involved in was, and this is a company that's still going today, a company that's a global consulting management and financial management company called I2 Global Consulting. And that was founded in 2016, and that's actually still going today. So it just goes to show that Garry is into quite a lot of things. He's obviously a hard-working, as I say, and busy man. Been involved in many businesses at director level, numerous sports-related management consultancies. But I just wanted to say it hasn't all been sunshine and roses for Garry Cook. There's been a few other blips along the way. Nothing major, nothing to worry us about at this time. But quite funny, I thought, when I read some of these, in all honesty. Involved mostly slips of the tongue. One being when he was, there was a bit of a grey area involving Man City's former player Richard Dunn, and some were saying that Cook was trying to push him out of the club and trying to push him onto other leagues or other parts of the world. But he went on record apparently as saying that he wasn't really marketable, and something about him not having a future with Man City, which didn't go down well, obviously, with the Man City faithful. But one of the big slips that made me chuckle was that at one of the Manchester City events where they were inducting New Rosler into their Hall of Fame, he invited him on and welcomed him into the Manchester United Hall of Fame. That didn't go down too well. Other things that Garry's been involved in at high executive level, he was actually appointed the CEO of the Saudi Professional League. Wasn't there for very long because obviously the position with Birmingham came along, so that cut that short, and he joined Birmingham as our CEO through Knighthead. Going on to Birmingham City, we might as well talk about that now, because that's what we're here for, isn't it? On the 14th of July 2023, remember it well. No, I don't actually, to be fair. On the 14th of July 2023, Garry Cook became the CEO of BCFC, Birmingham City, after Knighthead Capital chairman Tom Wagner brought him into the club following gaining control of the club from the Chinese, which we won't mention too much on this video. And I wanted to just talk a little bit about what he's done since he's been there, because he's very ever present with the Blues fans. He's very involved without sort of taking away the limelight, I thought. You know, he's not taking anything away from the footballing side of things, and he's not shy of trying to tackle a few things. In fact, only last week, watching the open house just the other night on YouTube that Blues put out, Garry Cook was quite forthright in answering some of the quibbles from some of the Blues fans, and he wasn't shying away from them. In fact, at one point he was actually sorting something out for one of the people asking questions about the allocation of seating issue, and answers were given. So you've got to commend for that sort of thing. It's not the case of, oh yeah, we'll sort that out later. It was, come and have a chat with me, we'll sort something out, as were all the directors, which very promising. Now, obviously, it hasn't, again, been absolutely plain sailing, and if we were to be able to go through all our Blues, forward planning now without any hiccups, it wouldn't happen, would it? We have had one. When we tried to make improvements by bringing in when we tried to make improvements with bringing in a new manager, when we brought in Wayne Rooney, basically, things weren't going bad with John Eustace, but we got rid of him. We brought Wayne Rooney in, put my teeth back in, and it didn't go to plan, admittedly. And I was one of the people trying to be absolutely as positive as possible back then. Didn't work. We ended up going down to League One, but even then, the positivity around the club, and it's not just down to Garry Cook, it's down to us, the fans, it's down to Knighthead, Craig Gardner, who we will do a deep dive on in the future if you're interested. We'll have a look into the background of with the others. But I think it's well worth just remembering what people like Garry Cook coming in with the expertise and the general knowledge around the sports financing world and where he's been. I feel quite lucky to have this guy at the helm of our club. So hopefully you will too, and things will be looking brighter for the Blues moving forward. So that's it on Garry Cook for the moment. Officially, Blue Tube would like to welcome belatedly to Birmingham, and hopefully things will continue to be rosy moving forward. But I hope you enjoyed this little bit of a deep dive into our CEO. We are planning to do more in the future, so hopefully you'll join me when we put them out. So nice to see you all. Hopefully see you again soon. Take care, guys. All the best.